So the Biden administration obviously is, what is it going to change? They're going to tell us we can't get the same documents the Trump people were telling us we couldn't get. First up, though, is the continuing anti-constitutional attack on President Trump. The presidential harassment, more or less, continues against the president. The impeachment trial will proceed against him beginning, I think, on February 8th, if I recall. But it's pretty clear that there are not the votes there to convict him. Recall the Pelosi House impeached him for inciting an insurrection. Completely baseless. But they'll do what they can because they can. They've got the votes. They convinced 10 and never Trump Republicans to abuse their power, in my view, to target him over core protected speech that did not incite anything, let alone insurrection. But that all being said, it moved over to the Senate. I thought they might have held it up for a bit but they did move quickly on it with the tacit and implicit, well, I shouldn't say, with the tacit support of President Biden. Biden has said the trial has to happen. So Biden's supporting this assault on the presidency. So the big question had been after it was moved over to the Senate or around the issue of moving it over to the Senate is, of course, can you punish an office holder who's no longer in office? Now, you may recall, I've highlighted the fact, as best I could understand it, that they did have jurisdiction over former office holders. But there was a debate. And I think there's an argument on both sides. I tend to, since the Senate decides whether it has jurisdiction or not, that to me is the test. If the Senate decides whether they have jurisdiction or not, then potentially jurisdiction exists. And to me, it's pretty simple. But 45 Republicans voted for a motion by Senator Rand Paul to knock it out, saying they didn't have jurisdiction, including Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, who had been playing games saying that he was potentially in favor of convicting President Trump. So now it's done, because if you don't believe the Constitution allows the Senate to have jurisdiction over a former president, then obviously you're not going to vote to convict and allow this sham impeachment to proceed much further. So now the Democrats are nervous about having to deal with this at all, since they obviously aren't going to get a conviction. So they're wondering how quickly they can get out of it. But what I found very interesting about this is now it's the law of the land, practically speaking, that former office holders can be impeached and then punished through a Senate conviction. And now, presumably, if the Senate convicts them, they can exercise their prerogative to obviously can't remove them from office since they're already removed, but to bar them from any future public office. So now that they did it to Trump, it can be done to Obama. It can be done to Clinton. It can be done to Bill Clinton. I mean, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, frankly. Any former president, right? It can be done to Comey. It can be done to Brennan. It can be done to Clapper. It can be done to all of the Obamagate figures. Susan Rice. And obviously Joe Biden's president, so he can be impeached. So that's certainly now on the table for options. So in the Senate choosing to proceed against President Trump, who no longer is in office, they have confirmed that Barack Obama can be impeached. And so I doubt Republicans are going to do it, but who knows? There's a new crop of Republicans, a new crop of conservatives. Maybe they'll actually pursue justice here, because justice isn't being pursued by the Justice Department, that's for sure. Today, it was announced Judge Boasberg, who is an Obama appointee. He's not the worst Obama appointee, but he's no conservative. Let's put it this way. And he's head of the FISA court. And I don't understand why, as head of the FISA court, he was handling this case, since he's a crime victim in many ways, or his court is. But Kevin Klein-Smith, the FBI lawyer who altered material related to the FISA warrant targeting Carter Page. The CIA told this FBI official that Carter Page was essentially an asset and a source. And he changed it completely around, saying that he wasn't, and altered that piece of information. Now, obviously, if he was a source, it should have been A, disclosed to the court, and B, it would have obviously undermined the application itself. So he altered that document, and he was facing potentially, he pled guilty to the Durham team. And, they screwed that up because, frankly, this case had been handled to them on a silver platter by the IG in late 2019. And only recently was he, I guess he pled guilty, or they came up with a plea deal. But then he shows up in court a few months ago. Well, I'm pleading guilty, but I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do it on purpose. I was under a lot of pressure. I thought it was true. All the arguments and excuses. And, that's what defense lawyers make and do. So Judge Boasberg, long and short of it, rejected prosecutors' request for a jail sentence. Not even a day will this FBI lawyer, who helped ruin Carter Page's life, undermine Americans' confidence in the fair administration of justice, attack the FISA courts. He's getting a year probation. Prosecutors had sought up to 6 months, but not one day in jail will this former FBI official now serve as a result of Obamagate, because this is part of Obamagate. Now, Durham, I don't know what he's doing. I've said I haven't seen any indication publicly that there's any serious investigation, meaning the big bad guys are being targeted. You kind of see indications of what a serious investigation looks like through grand jury activity, which is hard to hide from the public, another activity. So Durham's missing. Now, is it possible he ends up prosecuting someone? I doubt it. I guess it is possible, but I doubt it will happen. And I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping I can come back here in a month or 2 weeks or tomorrow or 3 months and say, hey, look, John Durham, he took too long, but thankfully he did the right thing. In the meantime, all we can expect is a report. And as you know, reports don't really do much in this town, especially if you're a left-wing anti-Trumper. As others have noted, a senior congressional source told me, I was complaining to them about all these Obama people coming back in who were part of the scandal of unmasking and illicit targeting, from Susan Rice to, who knows who. And he pointed out to me, he said, Tom, it's even worse. They're not only coming back, but they're getting a promotion. And indeed, when you have John Brennan talk about targeting conservatives like they're terrorists, why would you expect him to say anything other than that, given the fact that his misconduct in the targeting of Trump, from his perspective, has been ratified by the election of Joe Biden, or installation of Joe Biden? I mean, he isn't being held accountable for what he did. Obama wasn't even questioned about it. Biden obviously was never questioned about it. He was involved in the unmasking of Flynn, never questioned about it. And the only one doing any work now is Judicial Watch, suing in court to get the documents about what really went on. We're not waiting for Durham. We're not going to wait for Durham. Now, as President Trump was leaving office, there was this effort by the president to, at the last minute, declassify or release a whole bunch of documents. Our friend John Solomon at Just the News has been reporting on some of them, but a bunch of them still haven't been released, even though they supposedly have been declassified. I mean, the FBI was opposing, it looks like, and the intelligence committees, intelligence state was objecting to virtually anything being declassified. And by what I mean declassified, I don't mean classified in the sense that there was national security information that was being withheld. They were withholding also what is known as B5. What is B5? It's the deliberative. It's a term used, a shorthand way of describing a material held under the deliberative process privilege, as I call it, a pre-decisional material. And so FOIA, you think, allows a lot of documents to be released. It does, but not. But the government has abilities to withhold information, and some of the information they withhold is the essentially pre-decisional documents, the back and forth that happens before a decision is made. Now, from our perspective as a FOIA requester, we want all of that, right? Because that's where the good stuff is. The government says, "Oh no, you can't do that. It will chill decision making." So under that theory, they withhold communications with the, for instance, they had talking points for the tarmac meeting, proposed talking points. That's B5. We can't get that. That's the Clinton tarmac meeting. So what were they planning to say about Loretta Lynch's illicit meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac? Trump administration withheld that from us. So this is the challenge we had faced. And ironically, or sadly, it won't change much with the Biden administration. I know you're upset, probably because, you probably didn't want Joe Biden to be president, right? Many of you, right? But from Judicial Watch's perspective, our work actually increases because we know with bigger government and the more programs, there will be more opportunities for corruption. But in terms of our litigation, it doesn't really change in terms of its nature because we were being obstructed by Trump administration appointees. So the folks he had running these agencies, like Barr and Sessions and Pompeo and all the rest, who, I may agree with on things here and there in terms of policy, on transparency, they were a disaster. They were a disaster. And so the Biden administration obviously is, what is it going to change? They're going to tell us we can't get the same documents the Trump people were telling us we couldn't get. Except the big difference is, to President Trump's credit, it's the president. In the case of Joe Biden, I don't know where he is. And I mean that literally. I guess, I don't know, literally or figuratively. You could interpret it. But at least President Trump, he knew there was this issue of secrecy. He tried to get stuff out. He pushed to get stuff out. He was constantly battling the deep state to get stuff out and his own appointees. Do you think that's going to happen with Joe Biden? Of course not. So those are the challenges we face. So, but we've got all these lawsuits against the Biden administration. We're pursuing them as appropriate. And to try to get the documents about the worst corruption scandal in American history, which is the illicit targeting and spying on Donald Trump and other innocent Americans like General Flynn. And the folks who are implicated are now back in public office. Joe Biden, Susan Rice, other officials he's appointing at DOJ and other agencies. So we've got a lot of work to do. But on the other hand, we know how to do this. We've been doing this for 25 years at Judicial Watch. I've been at Judicial Watch for about 23 years now. So there's nothing new under the sun in terms of government transparency. It always gets a little bit worse each year, but then we just have to hire more lawyers. And you're helping us do that with your support. So thank you for that. So on the impeachment, but getting back to the impeachment issue, you need to let your senators know what you think about the continued abuse of President Trump. He needs to be given all the due process that's due to him under our Constitution and any sense of fair play. Remember, the House impeached him a week after the resolution was introduced. There was virtually no debate. There was some debate on the floor, but that was a day of debate as the politicians yelled at each other. But there were no hearings. He was allowed to present no defense, no witnesses, nothing. So the Senate has to ask itself, what is it going to do? Unless it's going to summarily dismiss it and just go through the motions and just say this is enough. But the president deserves full due process. And He needs to be treated fairly. I think it should be dismissed out of hand, but you should share your views with your senators. And I can tell you that your calls, and I'm sure many of you have paid attention to my my imploring you to call earlier. Those calls made a difference. Those senators who refused to even consider a Senate trial for President Trump, many of them did that because they were hearing from you. But there are going to be other battles related to not only this abuse of President Trump, but further abuses of President Trump, believe you me. So you need to let your senators know what you think by calling them at 202-225-3121. It's 202-225-3121. Call your senators. Don't presume they have a view opposed to you. Even if they do, call and let them know your views. Believe me, Democrats and Republicans love to hear from their constituents because it's a barometer of where voters' interests are, and that's useful material to them, and they make their decisions based in part on that. In the case of people who are targeting Trump, they hear a lot of noise supporting the targeting. They're going to ratchet up. They hear a lot of noise saying, leave Trump alone. Why are you abusing his First Amendment rights and his rights to due process? They may ease up. So just don't, because you live in California, do not call your California senators. And if your senator is doing the right thing, thank them for doing the right thing and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not going to forget this. So those are the sorts of things you should be doing. In addition to supporting Judicial Watch, you should be doing your own personal activism. Every day you should be thinking, what can I do to advance freedom, protect liberty, vindicate the Constitution? Who can I communicate with? What elected officials out there I should be educating about material maybe Judicial Watch has found? What letter to the editor can I be writing? What can I be posting on Facebook, assuming you're allowed to post on Facebook? What it is, that's you've got to, in my view, you've got to be vigilant. Just as you support Judicial Watch, it's an excellent way to be vigilant. But there are other things that you can do as an individual citizen, like simply calling your senator to let them know what you think about trying to outlaw political speech by pretending that complaining about election integrity is the same as inciting violence. These are dangerous times we live in terms of threats to our civil liberties. And I would encourage everyone listening to make a stand. So the leftists controlling big tech have this comprehensively attacking free speech. And, I've set up on Telegram. I've got, I think it's Tom Fitton JW on Telegram, Real Tom Fitton on Facebook. I'm locked out of Twitter. Hopefully I'll get back on, because I want to be able to communicate with people. And of course, Judicial Watch has Instagram, and I do too. And then there's Facebook and YouTube. So we're all over. And we've got our website at judicialwatch.org. But I fear that Judicial Watch will be deplatformed from many of these social media platforms unfairly and outrageously, and in my view, fraudulently. But until then, so I would prepare for that. And one way to prepare for that is to go to our website and share your email with us and share your mailing address with us. And that way we can communicate with you directly. We just have to be able to communicate.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.